Well, hello everybody and welcome to Jeff's Baking Blog. Today I'm going to make some sub rolls or submarine rolls. So those long rolls that you can cut in half and fill with all sorts of delightful things. And sometimes they have some sesame seeds or some poppy seeds on the top, sometimes they're split along the top, sometimes they're split along the side. But however you like them, that's how you can do them. So these are going to be a nice soft roll. They do take a bit of time because you have to proof the dough, as you always have to do when you're making a yeasted bread dough. But it's all worthwhile because they're a very, very nice roll. So I'll go on to the ingredients. And for this I have 400 grams, 2 2/3 cups of bread flour. That's based on scooping packed flour into a 250 milliliter cup. I have 255 millilitres, 1 cup plus 1 tablespoon of milk, which I have heated to 41 degrees Celsius, which is about 106 Fahrenheit, but it's now reduced in temperature by a couple of degrees, but that's fine. I have 6 grams, which is a scant 2 teaspoons of active dry yeast, 20 grams, 1.5 tablespoons of olive oil, 8 grams, 1 1/3 teaspoons of salt, 10 grams, 2 teaspoons of honey, and here I have 4 grams, 1 teaspoon of diastatic malt powder. And you can buy diastatic malt powder. It often comes in quite large bags, but it does keep quite well. And so diastatic malt powder is very good in making bread. It helps to, well, it complements the yeast basically. It provides food for the yeast so that the yeast can actually work on the dough to create the air that we need in the dough basically. And when the dough rises, that diastatic malt powder makes it rise better. And when you put it into the oven, it gives an extra spring in the oven as well. So that you get a nice, hopefully a nice fluffy type roll. So, as I said, if you don't have diastatic malt powder, the recipe will still work very well without it. You may just have to proof the dough for a little bit longer each time to get the desired result. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that into my milk. I'm going to give it a stir around. And it may have a few little clumps that don't dissolve straight away. That's perfectly fine. And then I'm going to add my yeast mixture in, the active dry yeast, and I'm going to leave that until it has fermented, activated and become quite frothy. And then I will come back and we'll go on to make the dough. So my yeast has activated, as you can see there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my flour into the bowl of a stand mixer, and I'm going to add my salt and my oil and the honey. And then I'm going to pour my yeast mixture in as well. And I'll just stir around to get the rest of the malt powder off the bottom. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to just knead that on a low speed until it comes together into a shaggy dough. And that's a shaggy dough now, so I'm going to cover that with a towel, and I'm just going to rest it for about 15 minutes, and that's going to allow the flour to absorb some of that moisture, and in 15 minutes I'll come back and we will knead it for longer until we have a nice stretchy dough. So it's been 15 minutes and I'm now going to knead my dough on a medium speed for about 7 or 8 minutes until the dough is smooth, slightly tacky and very stretchy. So I've kneaded that for about 7 minutes and it's actually quite good. So I'm just going to take that off the mixer, put that to one side, and then I'll just take a little piece of the dough and roll that in my hand, and then I'll start to stretch it. And I want it to be able to stretch until it's very, very thin and almost translucent before it starts to rip. It will tear eventually if you stretch it far enough, but it should be able to be stretched quite thinly. As you can see, there's a bit of a tear, but that's stretching quite thinly there. So that's telling me that that's good enough. And what I'm going to do is just simply going to work that into a tight ball. Like that, and then I'm going to put that into a greased bowl. So I'll put it in top side down, and then I'll just turn it over so that it's coated in a thin film of grease, and I'm going to cover that, and you can use plastic wrap, but I have a lid for my bowl, like that, and I'm going to put that in a warm place and allow it to proof until it doubles in size, or at least doubles in size. And once it's doubled in size, I'll come back and we'll divide it into 4 pieces and shape those pieces into the rolls, and then we'll proof them again. I proofed my dough for about an hour and it is now more than doubled in size, so I'll show it to you and we'll knock the air out. So that's what the dough looks like, and I'm just going to knock the air out of it. Like that. And then I want to divide that into 4 equal pieces. And I'm going to weigh mine just so that I get them equally divided. Should be 175 to 180 grams in all probability. So in actual fact each piece is 174 grams, and I'm going to just form each one into a ball very roughly, like that, and then I'm going to take each one and flatten it until it's in a rectangle which is about 8 inches. Like that, and then I'm going to roll it up like that, pinch the seams together. And I'm going to roll it between my hands like that until I get it about 10 inches or 25 centimetres in length. So there's the 4 rolled out, and I'm going to put 2 each on baking sheets. With the seam side down. And I'm going to cover them, each of the baking sheets, with a towel. Just like that. And I'm going to leave them to proof again until they've just about doubled in size again. They should puff up quite nicely, and if I press them with a fingertip, it should make an indentation which should then slowly rise back out to just about flatten out again, and that would tell me they're done. And as that time comes to a close, I'm going to preheat my oven to 190 degrees Celsius, 170 degrees Celsius with a fan, 375 Fahrenheit, and I'm going to place a tray in the oven. A small tray will do, or a small skillet or frying pan like that, which is going to take some cold water to create steam. So I'll heat that up while the oven's preheating, and then when these rolls or Subway rolls go into the oven, I'll pour the cold water in as well, and that will create the steam. So I'll come back when these have proofed and they're ready to bake. So my 4 rolled out pieces of dough have now just about doubled in size, and if I press one there, it springs back. So what I'm going to do, I have a very sharp blade here, and you can use a sharp knife, and I'm going to cut a slash along the length of my rolls. You can cut it on the top. You could do 1, 2, 3, 4 on the top if you wanted to, like that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to brush the top of them with a little bit of beaten egg white that I've mixed with a teaspoon of water. I'll brush them all over. And this will help them brown. But I'm also going to add some sesame seeds onto mine. Again, you don't have to do that. So I'm just going to take a few sesame seeds and sprinkle them on the top. And I've actually got some black sesame seeds here, so I'm going to just dot a couple of those over as well. And then they're ready to go into the oven. So I'm going to put those into my oven, and I'm going to pour maybe a cup and a half of water into the pan which I said I was going to put into the oven. That will create some steam, and I'm going to bake these for between 18 and 20 minutes until they've puffed up nicely and browned on top, and the internal temperature is going to be at least 95 degrees Celsius, which is sort of approaching 200 degrees Fahrenheit. At that stage I'll take them out of the oven and allow them to cool down. Then I'll come back and show you the results. I baked the sub rolls for 18 minutes and I tested the internal temperature, and that was good. So I took them out of the oven and I put them onto a wire rack, and I'll show you them, but I'm actually not going to taste them because my niece is coming round in about 30 minutes to collect them. So this is what they look like. So they're baked up quite nicely, as you can see, and I could have brushed the top of this one slightly more with slightly more egg white, I think, but they look quite good, and I'm sure they're going to taste very, very good. So really that's all there is to it. It's actually quite a straightforward recipe, even though it takes a little bit of time, and the results are very rewarding. So that's going to be it for this recipe. I hope you've enjoyed it, and if you have, please give me a thumbs up below and click to subscribe to my YouTube channel. In the top right hand corner of the screen there will be an eye that you can click on, and that will take you to a link for the recipe, and I'll put a link below the video as well, and I'll be back with another recipe in the very near future. So until then, happy baking.